So I think we'll get started. My name is Margot Rollins, and I am the Galbraith Program Coordinator. Galbraith is one of the preserves that are managed by SSU's Center for Environmental Inquiry. And our program this afternoon is Citizen Science Exploring California's Plants Using Calflora. And our leader today is Makayla Freed. She's an SSU graduate and a naturalist, and one of our dear alumni of our programs and of the university. Normally, our public events are for those of you just joining, and there are several of you coming in. I've asked people to please put their names over in the chat column so that we know who's on the call. Normally we do a sign-in sheet, but we can't do that as well. So if you would just type your name in, that would be very helpful for us. Usually our public events are done at our Osborne Preserve on Sonoma Mountain in Pengrove, or on my Galbraith Preserve, our Galbraith Preserve, near Yorkville in Mendocino County. And then we're all kind of feeling the challenges of shelter in place, like you certainly are. We're happy to be able to reach out to people during this time and connect in new ways. We've been very excited about the responses we've had. There were 34 people who signed up for this program, and there's no way we could do that on the preserve itself. So as sad as we are at not being able to be outdoors, we're very happy to be able to bring this information to a lot of people in a new way. Before I let Mikayla kind of launch into what we're all here for, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about the Center for Environmental Inquiry and how we can be a resource to you. No matter if you're affiliated with SSU or not, whether you're a student, a parent, a government employee, educator, member of the public, or perhaps an organization in need of environmental solutions, the Center envisions a North Bay working together to find sustainable solutions, and we're inviting you to get environmentally ready with us. We're building a community of learners and problem solvers across all segments of society by providing firsthand understanding of all of our deep connection with the environment and offering skill-building experiences that will result in sustainable action. There are many ways to get involved. You can engage in some of the research that's undergoing. You can do some of your own research with our input. You can take naturalist programs that we do a training program twice a year for community members. We have internships and student jobs. You can attend events like this, access data, lead or contribute. There's just a million different ways you can get involved, and we'll hope you'll take us up on some of those. Today we're going to focus on California plants and their importance to the diversity of the state and how you can help out using citizen science. The event will have a simple format. Mikayla is going to talk for 20-25 minutes, and then she's going to turn you loose to follow her instructions for an activity. And that will be followed by 10, I think she's going to, has allotted about 10-15 minutes for you all to go out and play under her instructions. And that will be followed by a 10-minute time for question and answers and to discover what you've found on your exploration. And you can feel free to email me after the event. I will give you my email address as we go further. Also, if during the program something is not right, please put it in the chat column. I will be watching that, and if you can't hear us or there's something that you need to bring to our attention, please put it up there, and I will respond to that. You can either send something to me personally, which would be the best way, or send it to everyone if you feel it's appropriate for everyone to see it. So as I mentioned, I have muted you all and turned off. Your videos are still on, and I think we'll turn those off also. So if you do need to say something and you can't, doing the chat isn't the appropriate way, then raise your hand. I hope you all see that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There is a way to raise your hand, and I'll be paying attention to that and see what needs to be done. And I think that's about it. So Mikayla, if you're ready to go, take
Sounds
it away.
Good. Okay, cool.
One last thing. I'm sorry. One last thing. Mikayla is willing to stay. She and I are both willing to stay around for a while longer, 15, 20 minutes longer if you don't get to everybody's questions. But we are going to really try very hard to end the program right at 3 o'clock out of respect for everybody's time. Okay, Mikayla.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you for the introduction, Margot, and welcome everybody. I'm excited to hop in and talk a little bit about Calflora. I want to first say that I'm not affiliated professionally with Calflora at all. So I'm just speaking from experience of somebody who's exercised it myself, used it a little bit, and taken the time to learn more about it, since I am a self-proclaimed plant enthusiast. My name is Makayla Freed, like Margot mentioned. I am one of SSU's former students. I graduated about a year and a half ago. And I am also a longtime volunteer of the center. I've volunteered in multiple capacities with the center. And I have kind of developed my love of plants and my excitement for plants through the Center for Environmental Inquiry and working with the center. So I'm really excited to talk to you more about Calflora today and hopefully see how you can involve it more in your lives, because as I've kind of gotten to learn about it more and gotten more familiar with it, I've learned that it is incredibly useful for your average Joe, everyone from your average Joe to your professional botanist who is out there in the field using this app and using the site every day. So without further ado, I will dive right in and share my screen. All right. Cool. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the significance of using Calflora, why people would want to use it, what is the importance of using it, and it all comes back to the importance of California's flora in general. So as you probably know, we're in a very biodiverse region. That doesn't just go for flora, that goes for fauna, that goes for basically everything here. We have so many different taxa that call California home. And that includes a great diversity of plants. But an example of some of the problems that we're facing in terms of biodiversity, unfortunately, is kind of a perfect example of that, unfortunately, is with California's native grasslands, who've seen around a reduction of around 99%. And that's due to everything from habitat conversion with agriculture and different things like that. That's not just happening with grasslands, that's happening with all kinds of different habitats here in California. And one of the things we enjoy in California is a variety of habitats, a variety of climates. We have this Mediterranean climate that is not very common, and that's why we get to enjoy such a diversity of plants. So when you have invaded and or altered landscapes, that often leads to a reduction of biodiversity and therefore a reduction of ecosystem services. And those services are not just services that other critters enjoy, but we also enjoy. So it's something that we all need. We all need ecosystem services simply for life. It's everything from services such as pollination to services that simply bring us joy. And especially in these times of isolation, I think a lot of us are really starting to learn the hard way of how much we do enjoy these open spaces and the beauty that they provide. And when you have invaded or altered landscapes, oftentimes, unfortunately, especially with invasive species, monocultures take over and change the landscape from being dotted with beautiful, diverse wildflowers to just becoming, for example, yellow star thistle, or just becoming French broom or Scotch broom, which are three very invasive plants, the brooms and the star thistle. So we are in an invaded landscape, even though we are so biodiverse here. And sites and apps such as Calflora allow us to better track, understand, and appreciate the plant diversity that we all get to enjoy here in California. So I am very grateful that we have Calflora, because not every state has its own very state-specific flora-focused site involved in these different states. I wish they did. So an overview of Calflora, it's described as a plant library for plants in California, but it's not just plants, it's wild plants. So your favorite plant in your yard that you have to baby to keep alive and has big, gorgeous flowers, it might not be there in Calflora. It could, if it's also occurring wild in California, A good example of something that is unfortunately grown ornamentally, but has also escaped and become a very invasive problem is what I mentioned earlier as far as the brooms. French broom is a huge example, Scotch broom, things like that. People plant them intentionally in their yards, but unfortunately they've done so well in the California landscape that they have invaded and unfortunately have taken over landscapes that are usually occupied by natives, which often create for more biodiversity, allow for more biodiversity. So that's an example of a plant that is ornamentally, that you find it in people's yards and you find it at nurseries. But I'm going to put a little plug, please do not plant French broom in your yard because it's causing a lot of problems. And it features over 12,000 species. Calflora features over 12,000 species of plants. And that's natives, non-natives, naturalized species, invasive species. And it describes different details of them too, which is very, very exciting for a lot of people who use Calflora because it's hard to find a specific place where you can enjoy learning the details of the species. It's kind of hard to find that just anywhere. And this is a site, an app that's used by land managers, plant enthusiasts. You got students, teachers using it, professionals, you name it. So the Calflora search engine, I kind of call it the meat and potatoes of Calflora, just because it's so versatile that so many people use it. It's a highly used tool in Calflora. It includes, like I said, upwards of 12,000 species. And I recently looked on the California Department of Fish and Wildlife website, and they've said that there are about 6,500 naturally occurring plant species in California, native plant species in California. So this number here that Calflora includes just goes to show how many species, native, non-native, that this app, this site includes. And that's a lot, and that's important that people know all this different information. It also contains criteria that include county-specific occurrence, associated plant communities. You can look at listing, and then the specific searches when you go in and find what you're looking for, find the species that you're looking for. You could find information on blooming period, geographic occurrence, even toxicity, serpentine affinity, all types of things. This here is called a bloom wheel. This is a very characteristic thing of Calflora, and I love it very much because you can just go out and say, hey, I'm gonna go for a hike where I know this species exists, but I want to know what time of year it is blooming so that I can see if I can enjoy the flowers. So it's a great tool to be able to use. And this is just a great example of the variety of species that you can find on Calflora. So anyone who's good at plant ID will look at this and say, that's quite an assortment. But here you have a rare endemic plant not found in many parts of California. This is the Tiburon mariposa lily. And that, again, that's a rare species that's native to California. Whereas this here on your lower left is star thistle, yellow star thistle, and that is a highly invasive species. I actually attended a presentation by the California Invasive Plant Council, also known as Cal-IPSI, about a year ago, and this species is listed as one of their top 10 offenders in California in terms of being an invader. So this just shows the variety. And here you have a naturalized exotic species and a very common native species. So California has quite a variety that they show in their search engine. Another California or Calflora feature is what grows here. And actually, I wanted to run through a little exercise of what grows here because I think it's an interesting part of Calflora that I hadn't known before and I'm going to be using more often. It provides criteria to help determine the place occurrence of different plants or the different plant occurrence in different areas. And it can be more site specific as well. And another cool thing is that you can print out your list as well. And I'm actually going to go now and share a different part of my screen because I want to show right about here. Sorry, bear with me here. I'm trying to get to the Calflora site. Alrighty, so here we are. And so what grows here? So it's on your left side of your screen here. You click into it, takes you to a map. So I'm gonna just go up here to my stomping grounds where I'm familiar with, this kind of North Bay area. And kind of one of the great things about this is that it has different layers. And one of the layers that it offers you to go into is region. And in region, you have protected areas. And this is a fun one because as I click this, you'll notice that these polygons show up. I'm going to zoom in. And as I zoom in, some of these things might start to become, some of these shapes might become familiar to you. Like I know that this here is Pepperwood Preserve. That sticks out like a sore thumb to me. Like I can like identify that easily. You go down this way, there you got Fairfield Osborne Preserve, but you don't have to identify polygons. All you have to do is click on, and you'll see in the lower portion of the screen, it'll tell you Fairfield Osborne Preserve, and it will even tell you that there is limited access or restricted access, or it'll specify the access that you have to that specific property. So for this example, I'm actually going to go up here because I've heard pretty cool things about the diversity and cool things you could find up at Robert Louis Stevenson State Park. And I'm going to just exercise, do an exercise with these different filters that you see on the screen so that you know what you can do before you do your next hike somewhere and want to look for cool plants and see what you can possibly find at a certain area. So if I want to find rare species, and let's see, what else do I want to make sure it has a photo in the observations that pop up. I want to make sure that there's a photo included in them, that it's not just text or anything like that. And I'm going to group it by life form, and you'll see in a second, I find it super handy. Plant names, I'm going to say I just want to go all in and look for any plants. And I'm actually going to draw a polygon right here. See how all I'm doing is clicking to draw a polygon. And actually I'm going to stretch this guy out here, and I'm going to go up there, and then I'm going to stop drawing my polygon. And now I am going to click in this circle. So the plants that I'm searching for are now in, I'm searching within this polygon. I'm not searching within this selected background. If I was, I could just click here, and then I could search in the selected background, which would be within this polygon of Robert Louis Stevenson State Park. But I'm going to instead search within this polygon that I have drawn. And from there, I will search. Again, I'm searching for rare plants that I'm finding in this polygon. And just like that, a list pops up. And because I grouped it by life form, it puts it into these different life form categories for me. So I can know what to look for, especially if I'm in a habitat that is more grasslandy. I might be looking for some herbs. Here you go. You got a really cool list of something that you might find. So this is a great feature. I see a lot of potential in this for people who lead hikes. And just just avid hikers in general. This is a great tool to be able to use to learn plants more and be able to utilize it out in the field, because you can go up to tools and you can get a printable version of this page. So then you can go and print out your list and use it in the field and identify yourself.
Mikayla, there's a question that's relevant to where you are now, which is, can you search by parcel or address?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I need to look and see where that would be. There is that option. There's zip code here on the right. So that's one thing that you can do. Let's see what Grid has. Yeah, I mean, in terms of actual parcel, though, that is one thing that I'll say, unless your parcel is a protected area or fits in under any of these other categories, I don't think it will. But again, I think this is more of an open space type of deal in terms of this protected area specifically is. So that's all I know of that. And then I will go back to my presentation. And then the next feature is called Great Places. It's very simple, very easy to use, but it's very similar to the What Grows Here feature in that you can go before a hike, for example, and look up specific botanical information. So once again, I will go and I will try to show you what that's like. I'm going to go to Calflora. And I'm going to go to Great Places and see all the different great places that it shows. So this doesn't involve everything. You can see it has specific dots in here, but surprisingly enough, Fairfield Osborne Preserve, which is one of Sonoma State's preserves, is in here, which is exciting. And I'll click into this, and you can see, just like that, it gives me a list of the different plants that I could find at Fairfield Osborne Preserve that have been observed here anyway. These are the different observations that have been made, these different dots that you see. And so it's not completely comprehensive, but it's a good solid list of what people have observed up there and what you could find if you had never hiked at Fairfield Osborne Preserve and didn't know what to expect.
One other question, Mikayla.
Yeah.
Is this you're doing all this on the website, not on the app, correct?
This is all on the website. Yeah, thank you for asking for clarification. This is on the website.
You do need to have an account in order to access that, or is that available to anybody?
That should be available to anybody and everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. The next Calflora feature is a big one. It's the Weed Manager. And I've did a little bit of homework before I did this presentation, reached out to a few people to see who's using a few organizations to see the different people using this. And so many people got back to me and said, we use Weed Manager religiously because this is a way to track your weed infestations as well as your treatments of those different species. So you can also, I'm not going to show you an example of this, but it does also have different criteria where you can specify this group hand-pulled barbed goat grass on this day. This was the polygon that we did this at. You can draw your polygon, and that's where the Observer Pro app comes in, is where you can draw your polygon and give a little information about that there so that you can then upload your polygon later to be able to see what area you treated. And then perhaps if you already have information on the extent of the population, or you could take information down then and there with drawing polygons on the extent of the population, then you can go back later and treat the rest of your polygon if you haven't treated the whole population. I did want to mention a couple of things about this before I move on. So again, this is widely used by a lot of different organizations. And I wanted to mention that Calflora actually has a lot of customizable data forms that fit the needs of different botanists. And those customizable data forms have customizable required fields. So let's say one of the required fields that you have to put if you pull weeds on a property or something like that is they want to know the observer. They want to know who that is, always, always, always. So it's customizable for whatever your purpose is, which is neat because some people are very specific about what they want in there, and other places it's different for other places. So the app itself is a smartphone application. It allows for field observations in the forms of points, lines, and polygons. A point often is used for one individual that you found. A line, I could find it being useful maybe if something's really likes disturbed areas, such as the sides of a road. You could also probably reasonably do a polygon for that, but I think more often than not, it's going to be points and polygons that you're using, but I can see the lines being used for like roadways, I'm thinking. But the polygons, you have to draw them. And you don't have to draw them out in the field. You can always go on the site or on the website and draw them on the website. Or you can correct your drawings on the website that you had done out in the field using the app. The problem that some people have faced is difficulty with drawing the polygons themselves. Sometimes you have to redraw them, and if you're talking about a large population, that you're not going to want to spend so much time walking around and around and around in circles just to make sure you have an accurate polygon. But that sometimes does happen. I have a friend who works with an organization locally who said that it's lately been glitchy on her phone and been kind of wonky with the GPS data, so you have to be careful about that. And that is one of the benefits of having a Calflora account and being able to go in on the website and adjust your GPS data later, because you don't want your GPS data to be off, especially with something as important as tracking infestations of weeds and treatments of different weeds. And also you have to have a well-charged device to go out in the field. But this is great because this app can be used without Wi-Fi, and you can get in a Wi-Fi area and everything will be, you have access to be able to upload it to the site where you can later edit it. So how to use it, you open the app, and then up on the app, you will see observation, and you will add photos. Try to use clear photos, that's preferable. And if you know distinguishing characteristics of a species, if you know what the flower looks like, if there's a specific venation of the leaves that just stands out, try to get those in the photos. And you can also specify your location. So you click on the map, and then it gives you the option. Do you want to drop a point? Do you want to draw a line? Or do you want to draw a polygon? And you can draw that polygon by walking. And I've put this picture on here because this is a great example. Some of you this may be familiar to some of you. We've got the Education Center in here. We got Lehigh Road. This is part of Fairfield Osborne Preserve. And I just wanted to use this little familiar site for an example. So you can click draw, and as soon as you click draw, this add point will be in blue the same way that these are in blue. And then you can drop a point. You just keep adding point, keep drawing points, and keep walking your polygon until you're done. Calflora versus iNaturalist. iNaturalist is generally more socially interactive. It's also more streamlined, to be a little bit honest. Not that Calflora is old-fashioned, but iNaturalist looks very modern, and it provides current observations. Calflora does too, but iNaturalist is, a lot of people just jump on there, and when they make observations of any taxa, they just go on and automatically upload them there. But it's more common with amateur botanists. Calflora includes decades from long ago, and it's good at filtering out, it's really good at filtering out errors. You have a lot of botanists all in one area, all wanting good data, and with that you often have less errors, but it's used by a broad range of botanists too. So it's a good way to get in and get accurate data. Just a little note, professionals also use the Jepson manual. And I will go into a few other websites and apps later. While both are great, professionals use Calflora the most, and that just totally takes the cake when you compare the two. So now I'm going to challenge you to go find some plants. Now, ideally, I would give this talk at a park or a preserve, and I would just say, have at it, go crazy, take pictures. But unfortunately, that's not the case right now. And if you do have some open space near you, or you have, I don't know, a lot with some weeds perhaps near you, then you're definitely welcome to go and exercise the app if you can. Otherwise, I would say you can find photos that you've already taken on your phone or that you have on your laptop and go ahead and upload them to either the site or the app, and you can exercise them. I will tell you that once you have them in the app, you have to go to your history where you will see the observation you made, and you have to press upload all in order to get it in on the Calflora site, where you can then later tweak it a little bit and make sure that you like how things look before you then publish it. When something says it's unpublished on Calflora, that means only you can see it. When you publish something, that means anybody can see it. You don't have to publish something. You might just want to do this for your own use, but I'm just letting you know your point is not going to be visible to somebody unless you publish it. So without further ado, we're just going to.
Before you let everybody go, Mikayla.
Yeah.
It seems to me that it might make sense if people are struggling with part of it. You want them to just hang on to their questions until we all come back, and are you going to be staying here for them to come back and ask you? This doesn't seem to be working. I don't understand. Or do you want to wait till it's all over? Till we finish the explore.
I'll be right here. I'm in an apartment, so I won't be able to run out to any park and take any photos of my own. I do have a few I've uploaded, but I'll be here if anybody has questions about this. And then again, at the very end, we will also take questions then too.
And I will unmute all of you, so that you can come back and talk real time with Mikayla if you need to.
Yep, sounds good. So let's reconvene at 2:40 sharp, please.
Theoretically, you're all unmuted.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, don't say anything bad, Julie Whitman.
I can always shut you down, Julie. Guess you can come back yourself, though.
Oh, Patty had the same question that I did, Mikayla.
What's up?
Yeah.
So I don't know if Patty can hear me or not, but she on Patty, do you have an iPhone? Because the same thing happened to me. Yeah. Should we communicate through chat, or can I ask?
Go ahead and ask it.
Oh, so on my iPhone app, before I observe, it says I must choose an organization and project. So I can make anything up, obviously. I think, obviously.
Let me see.
I only get independent as my only choice.
Oh yeah. Go in as independent, and I would say go in as simple data collection.
Dropping stuff off, because I'm sure no way I'm going to be able to keep all that I grow that lives.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Woohoo!
I like the sound of the woohoo.
Woohoo!
Keep them coming. All right. I'm
Woohoo!
If it's 8 o'clock, it's this. Oh.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So a couple hours ago, I was on a bike ride. I took a picture of a blooming buckeye. So I'm just okay. So camera. Oh, okay, so it could upload photos from my camera. I see. Got it.
Okay, now I can see the chat. I couldn't see anyone's face because I was in my PowerPoint, but now I can see what everyone's talking about.
I can't see how to do that on an Android, how to upload a photo that I've already taken.
You can't already taken them.
The only thing it seems to allow you to do is just to take it now.
Right. Yeah, you can't. You have to be in the app.
Well, I'm in the app, but
Oh.
I don't have an Android, so I haven't used it on there, but I have uploaded photos. You might have to go in your settings and allow some sort of access to the app to be able to have it talk to your phone camera roll.
I know that on my iPhone, I know it's obviously not Android, but I have the option for photo library and a slider. It says get photos from and then photo library, and it's a slider. So
Yeah.
my options are, well, okay, let me see. Touch to take pictures, all it says. And I have 3 of those, and they all say touch to take picture.
It might be possible that each one is for a different thing. Like I was just playing with that right now, and it let me, if you click on it and click the choose box, I think that'll let you take a picture, kind of. I don't know.
Well,
Playing with
let's
it.
What I'm finding is I'm going back and I'm finding like a photo that I took of delphinium, all right, up at Fairfield. And so I went ahead and I brought it home And now I'm trying to add it, but I can't seem to get it to go to Fairfield Osborne. It's making me do it from my house in Katati.
Can you zoom out on the map and direct yourself toward, that's definitely annoying, but can you click on map that has the little star?
Mm-hmm.
And then does it take you to a map?
Takes me up to.
Because
It does.
Okay, and then it should be right where you are. However, what you can do, there's one of two things. You can drive yourself on this map up the road to try and find Fairfield Osborne, which you might see there's this little, I can't really show you. It has on the top, it has coordinates, but then underneath those coordinates, it has satellite, it has both, and it has map. And satellite or both is the most helpful if you're in an open space, because you're not going to be obviously going off of road names in an open space. So that's one way you can do it.
It's interesting because in iNatural, it remembers the GPS coordinates.
Yeah, I like that.
I know. And that's another thing you can do is go, if you have it uploaded to iNaturalist, you can find those coordinates and you can type them in here, I believe. Maybe
you can get a free GPS app too and use that.
What's up?
It wasn't me.
So, Mikayla, this really is best to enter
Abby.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kate.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I was on that same situation too, uploading a photo I took the other day, and it's in the middle of a wilderness area that's really, really hard to pick out on the satellite or the map or anything. Yeah. So it seems like this is best if it's right in the moment, right where you're at.
That's
right?
definitely preferred.
But if you're not on Wi-Fi or don't want to use data, then maybe you won't get that either.
I know I have heard of it.
I don't know. I'm looking for my.
I'm gonna mute you all again.
App on?
I'm down with that, Margot.
You download the
And
app?
if you want to say something, you can unmute yourself whenever you're ready to say something.
Go to the
But I'm
app.
gonna put you back on mute. We did put back on mute.
Yes.
Okay, so again, if you want to say something, go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not trying to silence you.
Hi, I have a quick question. Is there any way that Calflora can help with identifying plants, or are we supposed to identify them prior to uploading our observation?
Yes, good question. Good question. Oh, you're muted, Mikayla. I'm sorry.
Okay, here I am. Good question. Thank you for asking. I don't know if it has any sort of artificial intelligence that can kind of autofill for you. I don't think it does. It might. I know on iNaturalist it does, and it does a pretty good job from what I've noticed generally. But yeah, I've never had a problem with that because I've had enough of a taxonomy background that I've been able to go, okay, I can identify that that's in the pea family, and then go from there on the search engine. I use the search engine religiously. But if you don't have that background, like I said, I honestly don't know if you can just have a suggestion pop up. But if that's not the case, that would be something that would be handy for them to work toward, because it's definitely helpful.
Thanks. That was a great answer. I guess as a follow-up, I see someone mentioned they could use the desktop on Calflora to identify plants. Is there any way you could walk us through that?
Like the search engine?
Yeah, like on the computer.
Yeah, I can do that for sure. And it is 2:40, so I can do that right now.
If there's time, that would be helpful.
Certainly.
Yeah, Mikayla, my husband uses Calflora all the time for botanical. That's how he cross-references almost everything. But the app doesn't seem to do that the same way. This is cool.
Yeah, the app is not perfect by any means, and it's a work in progress, certainly. But I think that it's going to get better and better, and there are people using it. I know Marin County Parks teaches their seasonal assistants to use it, to use Calflora in general, because it's just so darn handy. but let me share part of my screen. So we'll get out of this. So here we are, the search engine. This is where I spend an obscene amount of my time in my life. You have all kinds of different criteria that you can work through to find what it is that you're looking for. And again, if you have a taxonomic background in any way or any sort of basic botany skills, this is going to help you tremendously in identifying your plant and in narrowing it down. So if you have any idea of the plant name, even if you're, hike leader, call it some weird goofy name, some weird goofy common name, you might be able to find it that way. I mean, it's harder with common names because scientific names are so specific to the genus, to the species, to the family. But other things that you can do is if you remember certain things about it, like, well, that there is a native to California and we found it in a chaparral. And if you said, I was in Sonoma County when I found it, but I was really close to the border of Mendocino County, let's say, then you can press Control, you hold Control, hold Control, hold Control, and you click on Mendocino, and then that makes it so you've clicked both counties there. You can search from there, or you can go further. You could say it was a shrub. So this will take you, and this will narrow it down. It's not going to be real narrow, but it's going to narrow it down from what it would have been. So here at the top, it'll show you have 123 matching records. That's 123 species that have come up in your search for those different criteria that you've had. That's why it helps. The more you know, the merrier, which is why even here it says like poppy, for example. That'll help you even further. I'm going to get out of these because this is going to make it go all out of whack. If you have poppy and you know it's an annual, county information is super important. It's going to help you tremendously. And you can narrow it down from there. And then that's basically, from there, it's basically just by site. You look at petal color, petal arrangement, number of petals. In this case, it took me, looks like, just a lot of the poppy family, which makes sense, but common names are so funky that sometimes it can have poppy or something in the name and it can be, oh, what's this tree, it's bizarre. So that's a little bit of exercise of it. I would go into it more, but we're at 2:45 now. I'm gonna go back to this picture of my beloved sister.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Just play with it a little bit.
I forgot to tell people when they needed to be back. So why don't we, well.
I think
Did you say something about 2:45?
2:40. Yeah. I had it up on the screen and then I mentioned.
But I don't think you told participants that.
I think I did. I think I did right before people left.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. We can leave that open to the people.
Participants who were here. Did she tell us that?
She did.
Okay, good.
Cool. All right. So what are some things that people notice? We're gonna go through this briefly so we have enough time for questions. What are some things people encountered, noticed, liked, disliked? I understand any of it. Anybody?
I think that this is so cool because it's really going to narrow down being able to know your family and being able to go. I'm going to go for a hike today, and I can kind of get the feeling of what I'm going to be seeing that time of year in those parameters. Instead of just bringing a bunch of books, I can kind of look and see before I leave the house what I might see. This is really cool.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you doing this.
Well, good. I'm glad. It took some digging to get it figured out, but it is fun. And I think the more you use it and become familiar with it, the better it's going to serve you and serve whatever your purpose is as a hike leader or as a professional botanist. So I'm glad you like it.
Hey, Mikayla, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on what type of records we might get from this? To, you know, when you put a bunch of observations, then what do you end up with? Do you have your own compilation of things, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so if you have, so first things first, as I said, if it is unpublished, only you're going to see it. But once you go in and publish it, which I can try and show you what that looks like too, if I ought to. Let's see. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my observations. So this little pencil here, you see how it says click on the little pencil to edit a record?
Yeah.
So you can see underneath these don't say unpublished because they are in fact published. That means they are in fact here in the map. And you can see their points in fact. But this guy here is unpublished. And so I can go and click the pencil, I can go into editor, and I could say, you know what, let's say I think I was, you know, the point is off or something. I can adjust the point, I can edit the polygon, I can go into shape, or first I have to go into edit, excuse me, and I can edit my shape. And here it gives me all the points I dropped. It's a lot of points. I got a little too crazy with it. And I can edit that. I can edit information regarding some depending on what you do, like it'll give you more options for group. And I think in Weed Manager, it will give you information on, oh, I went out with a group called the Broom Busters and we pulled X amount of broom. You can add photos. So that's the first things first. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to my observations. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish this guy. Actually, I could have done that there, couldn't I have? Oh no, right here. Publish. So now it is visible. Now it is up there. So that's the first thing. And you can, I believe, make what is called a checklist. And I believe the checklist comes up in a different, so these are just kind of individual points I've dropped. The checklist, I think, comes in as a sort of square, and you click on it, and it could be your personal checklist of, you know, if you frequent a property and you want a checklist of all the things that you have personally seen on that property, you can create a checklist for yourself. I've not done that personally, and I imagine it's not very hard. Calflora has a lot of instructions on how to do different things, and you could probably just as easily type in checklist on a search engine, just type in checklist Calflora, and it'll probably come up with instructions. So those are a couple of the different things that you could do.
I'm imagining bio-blitzing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That would be definitely handy for this. And you can create projects too. So that's another thing that you can do. One of the biggest projects is help with plant ID. So a lot of people join that project simply so that they can help get their plant identified by people on the Calflora site. But BioBlitz would be a great use of Calflora.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. All right, so now we'll go further. Here are some additional resources, and I would definitely, if you want to take a screenshot of this, I would take it upon yourself to do that because this is going to be handy for some people. Plant ID, you can't go wrong with the Jepson manual. That is basically the botanist's Bible. It does involve some keying, but again, the more you know about, the more you're familiar with plants, the more you can narrow it down and figure out, you know, once you figure out, okay, I know what this plant family looks like, I'm confident with it. You can use the Jepson manual pretty quickly. iNaturalist is helpful, not a perfect system because IDs can be off at times, but it's also helpful. There are all kinds of different apps that you can search for on your phone that help you with plant identification. Just simply taking a picture of the flower, for example, and it'll have some suggestions come up. And a few mapping resources, GIS can't go wrong. Avenza Maps is a great one. It's geo-referenced, so it will a little blue dot will come up when you come into your map, into the range of your map, and it'll follow you. So if you're looking for a certain plot that you have put points down for, that little map that you can have on your smartphone will be able to help you find where you are and where you need to go to get to where you're going. And then Cal Weed Mapper is another great way to map weeds. Image credit, and lastly, any questions? Any more questions?
There's a question in the chat
Okay,
on there for you, Mikayla.
all right.
You want to read it out?
Okay. Good at removing errors. Okay. So from my understanding, the idea with removing errors, so for one, I'll say that Calflora they've kind of come to the understanding that with iNaturalist, for example, it's not a perfect system, and they actually have tighter filters for iNaturalist observations that are put up onto Calflora, which I thought was interesting. And I'm glad they do that too, because there are some wonky iNaturalist observations, identifications. I don't know how those filters work. I think it's mostly the relying on professional botanists, volunteers, and staff members to go on and say, hang on a second, that does not geographically exist in this area. And so, we need to filter this to an entirely different genus or something along those lines. Again, I think a lot of their removing errors is about that, is regarding that. There are just a ton of professionals who use it. So like I said, I think a lot of their reliance is on those professionals to go in and professionally say, hey, it is in my observation that in my experience with this plant that this is inaccurate or something. So that's my understanding of it. How often, so also how often, etc. It is set up, just hang on, it is, stuff is coming up. It is set up from iNaturalist, so it's important that knowledgeable people input the data, whereas iNaturalist is more forgiving. Absolutely, it's more forgiving. It's kind of anybody can go in on iNaturalist and do it. Calflora, you have, sure you do still have a variety of experience levels, but you generally have professional botanists who are on there enough to go through and identify.
There's
Ben,
a question, Mikayla, that Ben had asked earlier.
There is a
And
selection.
someone else said they wanted to get an answer to that, which
Yeah.
was, there is a selection on the website to add records from iNaturalist. Could people ID on iNaturalist and then transfer to Calflora?
Absolutely. And I have not personally done that, but again, if you go into a search engine, there actually is, I know for sure, a document that says, click on this and here's how you can do it. From my understanding, it's pretty easy.
Okay. Another question from Brad. Is there an app to get the Calflora desktop information on an iPhone, or is it just the Observer app that's available?
I don't think that you can get the Calflora desktop information on the iPhone. I mean, you can use the search engine, you can navigate the search engine, but it's a lot more limited in what it can do and what you can exercise on your smartphone going on the site versus on the desktop going on the site. So I think oftentimes botanists will use the app in the field and then come back at the end of the day. I personally know a lot of botanists who have done this, come back at the end of the day, see, with what they've treated for the day, for example, with weed infestations, and correct any information on the desktop from there. And then, let's see, I need to scroll up and see, is there anything else that I'm missing?
I think that's it on the questions that we had so far. Just looking through.
And Julie mentioned, I don't know if everyone heard this earlier, but Julie had mentioned earlier just initially getting in on the app and it's saying that you must select an organization and a project before you can observe. I just go in each time and I just push independent, that's the only option it gave me, and then simple data collection. There's also the post-fire option and advanced data collection options. And I honestly have not utilized it enough to know what those are about. I don't know if post-fire, if you have to be within a certain polygon that's known to have been recently burned. So I've not exercised that enough personally, to be honest.
So you see Julie's question there. To keep the date and timestamp, maybe it'd be best to just use the iNaturalist app and then transfer all flora observations to Calflora and not use the Calflora app at all.
You could use that. You could, yeah. I think a lot of people like how with Calflora you can go in without Wi-Fi and draw your polygon in there. So I don't know if there would be a really efficient workaround as far as drawing polygons, but as far as taking points, I think it's mostly if you can always see about your geographic information in that moment and write down your units, or if you go back later and you're like, gosh, I was in all this canopy and I don't know where to find where I was. That's when it gets tricky because it's hard to know what to rely on, even with like Google Maps and things like that. What do you rely on with geographic information to choose what actual coordinates you use? But I say with that, just kind of go with the best that you can, the best estimate that you can, because unfortunately with tree canopy and things like that, it can make those points kind of funky.
Well, I think we're going to wrap it up, Mikayla, so that I can do my little wrap up and everybody can be out of here right at 3. But Mikayla has offered to stay a little bit longer if people have questions and wish to talk some more about this Calflora and its app. So thank you all for coming. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly did. And I hope you feel empowered to use the skills and use the app and the website a little bit more. Feel free to email me. You all should have gotten emails from me, but my email address is Rawlins, RAWLINSM, @sonoma.edu. And if you have any questions and want to get in touch with me, I will send you all my email and Mikayla's as well. And I hope that you're okay with that, Mikayla, if people have questions afterwards that they want to email you.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Good. So I invite all of you to send any photos or videos you took during or after the session, and we'd like to add them to our anthology of outcomes from this series. So send photos to me or to Mikayla when I send you the emails, and let us see the photos that you took or videos you took today. This is one of the last, not quite the last, but one of the later ones in our series of over 24 virtual events that we've done this spring in response to the COVID-19 challenge. We ask that you check out our website, which is cei.sonoma.edu/calendar, and find out what these other events are. And it's been fun because we've had people from all over the country participate in this. And so spread the news far and wide of what we're up to. Coming up this month, we have a deep dive about waves and sound and bird sampling. And that is very interesting to look at the spectrograms, and the way you can visualize bird song helps you remember it, and it's on May 11th. On the 15th, we have a citizen science project called Aqua Bugs, Invertebrates, and Water Quality. We will look at the relationship of all of those things and how important they are to our lives all day, daily. And on the 16th, we have another citizen science project called Backyard Wildlife Cameras. And that will be very instructive on the kinds of things you can do with cameras and how to select the ones that work the best for what your objectives are. And finally, we've just added a new one called On Nature Photography, and that will be held on May 22nd. So check out the website, again, cei.sonoma.edu for more registration and to register. Meanwhile, stay safe, everyone, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, Mikayla. Great job.
Thank you, everybody.